Oh my god, Starfox came out 2 weeks ago and I didn't even have time to boot it up because of my wedding. Here's what I'm gonna do. I don't want to be behind all the other YouTubers. So I'm gonna stay up all night. I'm gonna get a few solid hours into the campaign and then. What?
90 minutes.
90 minutes.
You can beat the game in 90 minutes.
Like I could have done it during cocktail hour.
Yeah.
Then I would have missed the chicken and waffle skewers, and those were really good.
Oh my god, I forgot to have the entrance music. Starfox was not only a bit of a dead series, but it was also part of a bit of a dead genre. And yet to me, this game felt like a breath of fresh air. It's really exciting to be jumping right into Nintendo royalty. So, in honor of Pride Month, I watched this fox and this bird flirt with each other for 2 straight hours. And you spend much of that 2 hours on a fixed, moving path with limited freedom of motion, shooting down enemies in what are pretty much timed events. It's a style of gameplay that feels so familiar and yet is rare enough that I actually needed to Google what the heck it's even called. That word is rail shooter, and for as familiar as it seems, not a lot of games play like this. The reason this felt so familiar to me, it seems, was because of the hours of my childhood I spent playing Pokemon Snap, a game that I replayed over and over and over again, to the point where I knew that campaign like the back of my hand. And it turns out that across the neighborhood, my husband was doing the exact same thing with a little game called Starfox 64. If you were wondering what other famous Nintendo games are rail shooters, well, I honestly just named the two. It's really funny to me that for so many Nintendo fans, this feels like more and more of the same, of an experience that has been done to death. I mean, how many times has Star Fox 64 been re-released? Like 4 times? But to me, it felt so unique and novel compared to anything else I've gotten to play on Switch 2. I've done a fair bit of complaining about open worlds starting to feel overdone and about games giving you so much to do that many of those tasks don't really end up feeling meaningful the way that missions and goals in a linear game often feel meaningful. And sometimes those massive games just don't have the replay value that a small experience does. In fact, the entire point of a rail shooter is to play the same level over and over and over again until you've completely mined it for content or achievements. I've never seen a game campaign play quite like this one. There's multiple pathways you can end up on, but each campaign consists of 6 missions total, with the same first and last ones. It's not quite a choose-your-own-adventure in that until you've played it over and over again, you never quite know which action or achievement is going to unlock which path, though you do get a couple of branching options. And you can't go back and retry a level. Once you started on a campaign, if you don't achieve the path you want, you either need to truck through or replay the whole thing. I actually really respect that savagery, and again, that formula does make you want to replay the campaign multiple times. I do kind of feel like if I wasn't married to a Star Fox expert, I might not have realized just how many branches you really could go down on your path to the end. Which, by the way, he's gonna laugh at me if he hears me saying this in the other room. I don't know if I would advise playing this series for the first time in front of someone who was obsessed with this game as a child, because they will backseat game you to death. Though, like I said, I could see a reality where if I wasn't being backseat gamed, I might have only played through one time and said, that was fun, and just assumed that the only things to unlock were higher scores. So on one hand, Denny backseat gaming me like a kid on the playground was helpful because it made me realize just how much there was to unlock and how many pathways I could go down. On the other end, I did need to lovingly tell him to shut up once or twice. I'm torn on whether I wish the game would be more clear about what each mission's achievement and branching paths are or not. Because on one hand, I want to say no because it's fun to figure it out on your own. On the other hand, there's some that come off a little bit strange, like especially that first one, where to unlock pretty much the pathway that leads to all the other pathways, Falco kind of goads you into going through some archways, and it seems like every other level, your storyline branch feels like part of the plot, whereas with that first one, whether or not you go through an archway has nothing to do with the situation at hand, and it's really the kind of line you could easily ignore. So while I think it's great to have you figure it out, for a lot of people coming into the series for the first time, who are not living with a part-time Starfox expert, you really might not realize that the game is intended to be played in short consecutive bursts and then replayed again. I know I didn't. I actually knew nothing about this game going in other than that it was, Nintendo royalty and pretty famous. In fact, in both of my playthroughs, I missed the character of Kat entirely. I just didn't see Kat either time, whereas my husband got her a few times. And on my first playthrough, I missed Bill and his gang of puppies. Puppies that I could not stop friendly firing on. I am so sorry, puppies. I think there should maybe be more than 2 endings as well. I might be being a bit too story focused, but it just doesn't seem like the things you accomplish to get the true ending really create that much of a through line in the plot that would lead to Andros revealing his true form. And there are so many pathways that having only the incomplete ending or the good ending, it just feels a little lame. It feels like there should be a couple more endings in there depending on what pathway you take. I'm sorry, I also can't get over the fact that your teammates are named Slippy Toad because he's a toad, and then Peppy Hare because he's a hare, and then it's just Falco Lombardi because I guess he's Italian. Falco Lombardi sounds like he owns a deli that makes the best damn chicken parm sandwich you've ever had. I'm sure I'll get a lot of flack in the comments from people who don't agree with me calling Starfox 2026 a new experience, when it's one that's been remade over and over again. But I stand by what I said. There are probably a lot more people like me who have never touched a Starfox game than you would think. And on the other side of the coin, there are people like my husband who have played Starfox to death, and yet find themselves playing it to death once more, appreciating the upgraded visuals and challenges, or just the little trip down memory lane. I want to see more of Team Starfox, and I want to see more rail shooters. Between this game and Yoshi and the Mysterious Book and Rhythm Heaven, it's been really nice this summer to be given a bunch of titles that genuinely feel different than the other experiences I've been having on both Switch and Switch 2. All 3 have really unique gameplay, and they're small experiences with a lot of replay value, and they also all have some kind of discount, which I do think the Switch 2 needed that good PR with them good discounts. Maybe Denny and I just relate to Fox McCloud because we too have those relatives who just won't stop bringing up our dead dads. You could be having the best time at a barbecue or just flying your plane, and someone's got to remind you. There's always that peppy hair that's got to be like, wow, you did a really good job. Bet you wish your dad wasn't dead. Fox also throws in a dead dad joke in this game. I'm going to try to find it, but I got to tell you, that's something that I would do. Thanks for tuning back into Bridget's Never Played. I have really loved Star Fox, and I hope everyone else is too. Please give me your perception of Star Fox and rail shooters down in the comments, and I will see you guys next week.